Me 1 minute.
Sure.
Okay.
So it looks like Stephen might be ready now.
Yes, I'm good to go.
Okay.
Okay, so just start with a word of prayer. Lord Heavenly Father, we give thanks we can meet via Zoom. And we ask for your presence with us. We ask for your Holy Spirit. May you use me today to bring a message to your people. And I pray that it can be edifying. I pray that we can understand more of the truths that you have for us within your Word of God, as we seek to understand things which have maybe been hidden for a long time, ages, and that you're now opening up before the end of the world. I pray you can use me as one of your instruments in that case, that cause. We ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen. So my presentation today is called Measuring the Time. Can everybody see the whiteboard okay, or is it maybe not filling up a lot of the screen? Was it like, I don't know how to zoom into it.
I can see it.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. I want to write on the whiteboard sometime later. So when discussing the measuring the temple, we go to Zechariah chapter 2, verse 1.
Do you want to see? Sure.
And maybe have somebody volunteer to read that for me, please. And we'll actually read to verse 5, 1 to 5.
Zechariah 2, verse 5.
Chapter 2, verses 1 to 5.
Zechariah 3, 1 to 5.
So chapter 2, verse 1 to 5.
Okay. Chapter 2, 1 to 5. I got that. Yeah. I lifted up mine eyes again and looked, and behold, a man with a measuring line in his hand. Then said I, Whither goest thou? And he said unto me, To measure Jerusalem, to see what is the breadth thereof, and what is the length thereof. And behold, the angel that talked with me went forth, and another angel went out to meet him, and said unto him, Run, speak to his young man, saying, Jerusalem shall be inhabited as towns without walls, for a multitude of men and cattle therein. For I, said the Lord, will be unto her a wall of fire around about, and I will be the glory in the midst of her.
Thank you, Dean. So here we see Zechariah seeing an angel and, a man with a measuring line in his hand. And he's told, so Zechariah says to him where he goes to, and he says to measure Jerusalem, see the breadth and the length thereof. And then it's connected with the amount of people in Jerusalem. It says, and Jerusalem shall be inhabited as towns without walls, for the multitude of men and cattle therein. The measuring of this temple seems to be connected with the amount of people that is within the city. We don't actually get any measurements in this here verse concerning what size this here temple is. And but we get that in Ezra chapter 6, verse 3. You just get the foundations of the temple in this here verse, and that's all really we're told about it. And this is what the decree of Cyrus. He says, in the first year of Cyrus, the king, the same Cyrus, the king that made a decree concerning the house of God at Jerusalem, let this house be builded, the place they offered sacrifices, and let the foundations thereof be strongly laid, the height thereof 80 cubits, and the breadth thereof 80 cubits. Sorry, so well, it talks about the foundations, but he says that the height there is 80 cubits, and the breadth 80 cubits. So we are sort of given some dimensions of not just the foundations, but the height of the building as well. So it's 60 cubits by 60 cubits. And so dimension-wise, this is going to be 360 for 3,600 cubits. And we're very familiar with 360 being a symbol of concerning time.
Yeah.
This will be like 10 times that. And then if we go to another measurement of the temple occurs in chapter 21 of Revelation. And in verses talks about the gates and then the wall. So verse 16, or sort of verse 15, it says, and he that talked with me had a golden reed to measure the city, and the gates thereof, and the wall thereof. And the city lieth foursquare, and the length is as large as the breadth. And he measured the city with the reed 12,000 furlongs, and the length and the breadth and the height of it are equal. And he measured the wall thereof 144 cubits, according to the measure of a man, that is, of the angel. So there is, generally this is taken to be 12,000 furlongs in circumference, unless anyone has any other understanding of it. So we could see if you can see this okay. So we have understanding, I think, is 12,000 furlongs. So you'd have 3,000 furlongs for one side and then it'd be 3,000 furlongs in height. Now, whether it's a cube or not, some people think it's a triangle or a pyramid. If it was going to be a pyramid, it wouldn't be an equilateral pyramid because because all sides going up would be different. It would be a different sort of measurement. If it's going to be a pyramid, if it's all sides were equal, it wouldn't the height. Size going up wouldn't go to 3,000, it would be about 2,500. So there's another alternative is that it's maybe like this New Jerusalem is like a pyramid shape. On each side is 3,000 this way, and 3,000 this way, and 3,000 going up. And this equates to being 375 miles. If we understand that a furlong is an eighth of a mile. Does anyone have any other ideas concerning the New Jerusalem dimensions? And if you calculate the area, 140,625, which is it's quite near 144,000, but not quite. It's basically 8 times this year number off. So it would be like basically the 3,000 and the 375. If you added them together to the square root of this year number, will get you to 144,000. So you can be seeing it there. And the number 375, I thought was if you go to base 12, it's number 373. So I don't know if that's significant, but I just noticed that as well concerning this number. But we see the walls being mentioned, and they're 144 cubits. So we can certainly see that the New Jerusalem can be in some way connected with the 144,000. And it's we don't have any zeros added. So when we come to numbers, we can maybe it gives us sort of like another permission in the sense that we can take zeros from things or even add zeros. So any other comments on that there, any other perspectives anyone has in the New Jerusalem that they would like to add? We're not actually mentioned, we're not actually given any, we're just told that the wall is 144 cubits. I just think that's would
How
probably
did you come to the 273 again?
This is at 375 and base 12.
Okay.
You know, it's you can have like octals. Have you heard of octals, like a base 8 or hexadecimal?
Yeah.
Base 16. Base 16.
Okay.
Yeah. So we'll move on to our next measure in the temple.
Yeah.
And,
Just to encourage everyone there, what Stephen did was still way over my head yet. So I'm gonna have to look at it. So if you were a little bit confused, don't feel alone.
what do you not understand what I said?
Well, it's just that it goes so quick, you know, so a person would need to go over it again and spend time doing the math themselves. And so now I know how people feel when they watch my videos. Yeah. So
I need a math course.
Yeah. But it's important because what he did there with those numbers is just showing that you have this structure of the city, which people just generally pass over. And yet when we look at it, it presents these numbers that are part of our message and connect to the 144,000 and also the message to the Levites. So it's not something that's trivial. There's significance in it, but the math goes by pretty quick. You'd have to spend time doing it on your own.
Okay, so
So
I'm
the
just
wall-
kind of, go ahead, Jeff.
The walls are 144 cubits in length, or
I would think in height, it doesn't actually give you
height. Okay.
the length or height or whatever.
height,
It doesn't-
height or the width, could be the width.
Yeah, could be.
When you take 144 multiplied by 21 inches for a cubit, and then convert that to feet, you get 252 feet wide.
No, is
Yes.
it cubit 21 inches or is it? I thought it was 18 inches.
Well, 18 inches will give you 216 feet. And so that's like 6 times 6 times 6 as well. So generally, I think most people reckon a cubit is 18 inches. And but in Ezekiel, it talks about a cubit and a handbreadth being the cubit. And a handbreadth is 3 inches added to that, 18 inches. And that will give us a cubit of 21 inches in the temple of Ezekiel. And I do plan to get there. So do you want me just to briefly go over that again, or do we need to just about the temple there?
People can just watch the video again.
Was this being videoed or no?
Yeah. Well, it needs to be.
Right, okay. So we'll go to the next measuring of the temple, and that's chapter 11, just back of Revelation. And maybe someone who would like to read verses 1 and 2.
And there was given me a reed like unto a rod, and the angel stood saying, Rise and measure the temple of God, and the altar, and them that worship therein. But the court which is without the temple, leave out, and measure it not, for it is given unto the Gentiles, and the holy city shall they tread under foot 42 months.
So I'm going to share my screen. If it's I'm able to do so, I take it.
You are able, yeah.
Okay, thanks. So I have there just measuring the temple that the prophets spoke less for their own time than for the ages which have followed and for our own day. So that's in Ellen White, that's Signs of the Times. And so when we're looking at this here, measuring the temple, it's speaking to our time, that this is more for us. And we read there, we've just gone through the first two measurings of Zechariah and Revelation. And we've came to Revelation 21, and now we come to 11. I have here this verse in Revelation immediately follows the bittersweet experience that God's people have when they eat the little book of chapter 10. The bitterness relates to the disappointment of the 10th day of the 7th month of the year 1844, equating to October 22nd in the Gregorian calendar. It is then that John the Revelator is given a reed and told to measure the temple of God, the altar, those that worship therein, and those that worship therein. In making an application of this verse, we recognize that Christ rose on the 10th day of the 7th month that year from the holy place of the heavenly temple to the most holy place to begin the work of judgment, determining those worthy of eternal life and blotting out their sins. In the symbolism of this verse, Christ then began measuring the temple, which we can equate to cleansing the sanctuary of Daniel 8:14. And then, so that's certainly one understanding of what this measuring of the temple can relate to. And I think there's an extra meaning, is there a dual application certainly that can be made. And we have here some quotes from 7 Bible commentary concerning the 7 thunders. It says, the special light given to John, which was expressed in 7 thunders, was a delineation of events which would transpire under the first and second angels' messages. Seal up those things which the 7 thunders uttered. These relate to future events which will be disclosed in their order. So the first and second angels' messages occurred from 1798 to 1844, and these relate to future events which will be disclosed. So we're understanding that we're now living in a time when these 7 thunders in a sense, these events are being repeated, which were expressed as seven thunders. And then Review and Herald, August 19, 1890. I am often referred to the parable of the 10 virgins. 5 of whom were wise and 5 were foolish. This parable has been and will be fulfilled to the very letter, for it has a special application to this time, and like the third angel's message, has been fulfilled and will continue to be present truth until the close of time. Just picking up, this parable has been and will be fulfilled to the very letter. We understand that it was fulfilled in 1844, and it's going to be repeated in our time. So therefore, we can understand that John, by measuring Millerite history, was typifying God's people at the end of the world, who would seek to understand that history and experience its perfect fulfillment, namely the 144,000. So John's typifying a people that at the end of the world is going to do this here measuring. And that's what I'm trying to do here, what I've been trying to do this week, and looking at these here temples. But we've seen there was a 46-year time period involved in that Millerite history. And so we've also connected this year 46 time period to the temple in John chapter 2, verse 20. Where it says, verse 19, or sorry, verse 17, and his disciples remembered that it was written, the zeal of thine house has eaten me up. Then answered the Jews and said unto him, what sign showest thou unto us, seeing that thou doest these things? Jesus answered and said unto them, destroy this temple, in 3 days I will raise it up. Then said the Jews, 46 years was this temple in building, and wilt thou rear it up in 3 days? Familiar with these things? Just, going over them again, just identifying that John, see that there's this year 46-year period connected to that history, and especially it's been brought out in Revelation chapter 11 verse 2. Says, but the court which is without the temple leave out, and measure it not, for it is given unto the Gentiles, and the holy city shall they tread on their foot 42 months. So if John is here in 1798, sorry, in 1844, he's in the 22nd of October 1844, and he's told to measure this here temple. But he's going back in time. He's told not to measure the 42 months, which is the 1260 years from 538 to 1798. So therefore, from 1798 to 1844 is the time period that John is being asked to measure. And we've seen there John chapter 2 is connected to a temple. And we also know the history of Moses. When he was in Mount Sinai, when he first received the 10 Commandments, he was on the mount for 6 days, and then he went into the cloud for another 40 days, and that was a 46-day period. And we're told that we are the temple of God, and we have 46 chromosomes. So you see this number 46 connected with the temple. This is a mismeasuring of the temple. It's something that measuring this 46-year time period is not something that the Millerites really did. Ellen White does refer to it at times as being an experience, but they're not really measuring this here temple and understanding this here history is going to be repeated as the seven thunders instructs us that it will be repeated. And we can understand these delineation events as waymarks as they come as we pass through them. So we can move on to our next measuring of the temple. If we go to Ezekiel chapter 40, or maybe someone can read verses. Well, actually, I might have it here on the screen. So we have Ezekiel 40 verses 1 to 5. If someone would like to read that for me, please.
In the 25th year of our captivity, in the beginning of the year, in the 10th day of the month, in the 14th year after that, the city was smitten. In the selfsame day, the hand of the Lord was upon me, and brought me thither. In the visions of God, brought he me into the land of Israel, and set me upon a very high mountain, by which was as the frame of a city on the south. And he brought me thither, and behold, there was a man, whose appearance was like the appearance of brass, with a line of flax in his hand, and a measuring reed. And he stood in the gate. And the man said unto me, Son of man, behold with thine eyes, and hear with thine ears, and set thine heart upon all that I shall show thee. For to the intent that I might show them unto thee art thou brought hither. Declare all that thou seest to the house of Israel. And behold, a wall on the outside of the house round about, and in the man's hand a measuring reed of 6 cubits long, by the cubit and a handbreadth. So he measured the breadth of the building 1 reed, and the height 1 reed.
Thank you. So we have here Ezekiel. So it's very similar to John, that he's in the 10th day of the 7th month. It doesn't say the 7th month here, but we can understand that this year in the beginning of the year relates to Rosh Hashanah, which is the head of the year, which is the 7th month. So we get like a proof text to John connects with Revelation 11. And this is also on the 22nd of October, the year 573 BC. So that's just like another confirmation that connects with John as well, being the exact Gregorian date, or this year's the 22nd of October will be the Julian date in this year. But we have out there date 22nd of October attached to each measuring of the temple. And we're told here that this here reed that he's given, or that the angel uses to I don't think John's actually, or sorry, Ezekiel's not actually doing the measuring. It's another angel that does it. I think John and Ezekiel is watching this angel, and it's a reed of 6 cubits long by the cubit and a handbreadth. Now we understand that the understanding is a cubit normally relates to 18 inches, and a handbreadth is 3 inches. So this here cubit is 126 inches. And so right away we have a number which we're familiar with. And we're going to measuring this here temple of Ezekiel. It is if this is going to be have any meaning at the end of the world, it has to be sort of people have to be understanding something of the measurements and what they mean. And so some people, we generally understand that a lot of Protestants put this here into the millennium. They have like a false idea, but we understand this is more like a symbolic temple. And it doesn't have long left. There's not long left in this here world to have a fulfillment or an understanding of it. And so that's what we've been finding. A lot of the things the numbers, but not all of them. I don't understand a lot of the connections with the numbers, but a lot of them seem to be having connections with periods of time in this here movement. And we can certainly connect the understanding of measurements of time when we look at the temple of the tabernacle. So we'll go to the tabernacle of the Moses, and we'll look at the measuring of the temple there. So I'll stop sharing. And go to Exodus chapter 25. We'll start off with the Ark of the Covenant in verse 10. Someone want to read verse 10 for me, please?
And they shall make an ark of timwood, 2 cubits and a half shall be the length thereof, and a cubit and a half the breadth thereof, and a cubit and a half the height thereof.
Thank you, Ellen. So I'm just going to draw the blocks. The ark. And this is 2.5 by 1.5, and then the height's 1.5. And if you're going to convert that to inches, based on an 18-inch cubit, this here would be 45 inches. 1.5 is 27 inches. And so we're going to measure the circumference of the ark. So this would be 45 this side, 45 that side, and then 27 each side. That adds up to 90 inches plus 45 inches. So sorry, 27, sorry, 54, which gives us the number 144 inches. So straight away, we're seeing something of significance with the number 144. But to connect that, if there's an understanding, we can maybe connect the whole circumference of the whole tabernacle itself with an understanding of time. And we find that in verses maybe
is that square cubits? Square cubits or?
this is just like the measurements. It's not square here. The cubits are just. This is just not square. No.
It's the circumference.
Yes, the circumference.
Yeah, so
Okay.
it's 45 inches plus this 27 plus the 45 of the back and the 27 of the other side. Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing.
Okay, and then if we where's the hangings? It talks about the circumference. It's about 100 cubits. Verse 27 of 25, I think. It's all right. And it talks about the gate being 20 cubits. I've lost my place. Sorry. 50. Should trying to find it.
Is that verse 17?
That's the mercy seat. Should have it here. Sorry. Okay. Sorry. Should say, I'll put in, let's do a word search. Sorry. 100 cubits.
Is that chapter 27, verse 9?
Yeah, I'll just find it. Yes, I think it is. And
Yeah, that's
I
it.
think verse 18, 27, 18. That's it.
Okay.
Sorry, couldn't read that right. Yeah. So 27 verse 18.
7 verse 18.
The length of the court shall be 100 cubits, and the breadth 50. Everywhere the height 5 cubits of fine twined linen, and their sockets of brass. So, this would be the whole tabernacle. This would be 100 cubits, and this would be 50 cubits breadth. So you have to, sorry, actually, this, yeah, you have this would be the sanctuary, and then you'd have the tent within here. You'd have the laver and burnt offerings altar. So 100 cubits with, you understand a cubit is 18 inches. This would be 1800 inches, and then 50 equates to 900 inches. So roundabout, so circumference again, as like we did with the ark, comes to 5. So it's equals to 360 plus 18. So that would be the total of 360 each side, and then 18 for the two sides, and gives us 5,400 inches.
Yeah.
And then there's an entrance gate, and it talks about it being 20 cubits, and we find that sorry, what time do I have to here?
Between an hour and an hour and a half.
All right, okay, so about halfway through maybe.
Okay, we're fine.
Okay, so verse 15 talks about the gate of verse chapter 27, verse 15. Verse 16 actually. And for the gate of the court shall be a hangings of 20 cubits of blue and purple and scarlet and fine twined linen, wrought with needlework, and their pillars shall be 4, and their sockets 4. So we have a gate here of 20. It talks about, just in the verse before, it talks about 15 to give you the 50 cubits. And 20 cubits then equates to 360. And if you take away the gate from the rest of the hangings, it comes to 5040. And we can understand this as 2520 times 2. If you just divide it in half. So this side here will add up 2520 inches, and the other side to 2520 inches. And we have the gate here being 360. And this we find this here in Daniel. We can connect 360 years with it being a time. And so we can connect basically this here measuring of the temple to being connected with time. And we know that these here, we have two 2520s.
Yeah.
From 723 to 1798, and then from 677 to 1844. Just write the ark. This is the tabernacle. And you can also see 54 being the symbol of the 5th day of the 4th month as well. We find that in Ezekiel 1:1. So, we start measuring in temple on the 10th day of the 5th month. So we have the 5th day of the 4th month is when actually the book of Ezekiel, where he starts to prophesy. Then when we look at the altar, I'm not going into the details, but it's basically the altar of sacrifice in this tabernacle. 5 by 3 by 3, so it's basically twice the size of the ark. And so 5 cubits is 5 times 18, which is 90, and then 3 is 54. 3 cubits is 3 times 18, which is 54. And that will give you the inches of the actual altar of burnt offerings. So I'm just bringing out this here 90 and 54 here. And then I can show you a quote where Ellen White talks about this here. This here tabernacle, she gives us the dimensions of it in feet. It's in Patriarchs and Prophets, page 348, paragraph 1. I think I can share this. I don't think it's there. Yep, here it's. So she says the tabernacle was so constructed that it could be taken apart and borne with the Israelites in all their journeyings. It was therefore small, being not more than 55 feet in length and 18 in breadth and height. Yet it was a magnificent structure. The wood employed for the building and its furniture was all that was that of the acacia tree, which was less subject to decay than any other to be obtained in Sinai. The walls consisted of upright boards set in their silver sockets and held firm by pillars and connecting bars. And all were overlaid with gold, giving to the building the appearance of solid gold. The roof was formed of 4 sets of curtains, the innermost of fine twine linen, blue and purple and scarlet, with cherubim of cunning work. The other three respectively were of goat's hair, ram skin dyed red, and seal skins, so arranged as to afford complete protection. So I want to bring out there that this here tabernacle, she says, was not more than 55 feet in length and 18 in breadth and height. So we have this tabernacle. This is 55 feet by 18 by 18. And this can be length, breadth, and height. And, so this would be, this here 5,400 inches was the external court, but she's actually talking about the holy place and the most holy place area of the sanctuary. And now she says it's no more than this here height, but I'm just sort of thinking that these are measurements that she's given us. I think it's when we look at the circumference of this here tabernacle using these dimensions, this will equate to 660 feet, sorry, inches. So 55 feet equates to 660 inches, and 18 inches. Equates to 316 inches. If we multiply this to get the area in inches, it's 142,560 inches. So it's not, again, it's not quite 144,000. But we could say if you it's 144,000 minus 144. Well, sorry, 1,440. So it's kind of almost it's like just short of 144,000 by 144, 1,440. So it's I thought it was quite interesting. Then if we do this here, measuring 55 by 18 feet, gives us the number. Let's make room here. 55 by 18 gives us the number 17820. So it's almost like 18720, but not quite. You know, we have this here being a significant number representing the 18th of July 2020. But what I did find interesting, if we connect this here, measurements of the ark, and you can see this here, 90 inches here, and then it was the tabernacle had the altar event of burnt offerings also was 90 inches. We can get that 9 inches from that as well. If we can add a 0 to it and add 900 to this here number, it will give us 18720. But what I also find interesting is if we take away from this here number 540. I'll do it this way, 18720. Then if we minus 540, it equals 17280. So we're just having the same sort of digits, except they're just all scrambled around. And it's connecting with these here dimensions here of the arc. And this equates to 13 days. If we're going to consider that each day is 1,440 minutes, this would equate to 13 days. And this year number is 172, 17,280 is 12 days. So this here, 940, just sort of connects with this here. 12, just here sort of reminds me of what we looked at in Esther, the book of Esther, chapter 3. We see that there's it talks about the 12th year of Xerxes, and there's going to be a Sunday law take place, or something that typifies a Sunday law is a death decree brought about by Haman, and he makes it on the 13th day of the 12th month. And so we have this here 12 and 13 sort of connection there. And we've seen that if we add up 12 to 12, it's 144 times 18, times 13 equals 1872. So it just sort of seems to be sort of connecting these here. If you do this here, math, is that any comments on that? Is that
Well, what I can say, Stephen, is, people are going to have to take time to go through this. Now, what you're doing is you're showing that this measurement, which has to do with the judgment, which is the time in which we are in, is connected to these numbers. And so some people could look at this and they can just say, well, this is just a bunch of math. It goes over my head. I don't understand what he's talking about. But we know that the sanctuary represents the gospel. It represents the work of Christ. So I would ask a question. How would you then relate this? So now that we have these numbers, how do you relate this? Why are those numbers there in your mind?
because this is like relating to past experience, this here number here. And we're just finding them. They're there in the Bible. It's not as if I'm coming up with them. And then we're being instructed to measure the temple, to count the length, to count the breadth, to count the height. And so there has to be some people at the end of the world seeking to do that, I think. Before we had this experience with these here measurements of the temple would have meant nothing to us. But when we're now looking at Ezekiel and these here measurements of the temple, we're beginning to see something of meaning being connected to these here numbers. There's still a lot of numbers I don't understand. Maybe don't seem significant at all.
Yeah. So this kind of goes with Tom's study, where he talks about these anchors that go back to the past, and then the study that we had last night, which relates to the symbolic purpose of numbers. And so what I would say, when somebody would just kind of criticize this as a bunch of numbers, what I would say is that these numbers are anchors. And the verse that we used Isaiah 22:22, Hebrews chapter 6, verse 19, and Ezra 9, verse 8, which related to this, the open and closed door, the shut door, and to this anchor. And so when we're dealing with the sanctuary message, it is an anchor that ties us to the past. This also relates to Ellen White's idea when she talks about passing over fulfilled prophecy, the ground of prophecy being fulfilled, that those events reflect back upon past events that then will shine light into the future. So God has put these here for us, but they're only understood in the context of a larger message. They in and of themselves are just a curiosity. So we're not saying that these numbers themselves are the important message. They point us to a message and give confirmation of that message.
Yes. Yeah, thank you.
It's also a confirmation. It shows the veracity of the Bible, because when you consider, especially that thing you had on the board before where you're doing the measurements of the temple, and it converts to 22, 25 20s and the 360 and the 144,000. When you consider we have to convert the cubits to inches to get those numbers, and inches didn't exist at that time, right? The inches came about much later. It's quite amazing, because the Lord would have known that that was going to happen. And these numbers are put in place. They mean something. And they were put in place before the unit of measurement we're using didn't even exist and wasn't contemplated. It's quite amazing.
Yes. These are still the measurements of the glorious land as well, you know. Since America's one of the few countries which still hold on to these here imperial measurements, while most of the world's going in the way of metrics.
Right.
Just about the length of the boards of the tabernacle. I'll just sort of mention this, that the boards are 10 cubits high. It doesn't actually give you the size of the holy place or the most holy place directly in the Exodus of the tabernacle. It does tell you that the height of the boards are 10 cubits. So you have overlaid that then the seal skin, the rugs, whatever, the goat skin, so forth. So that's going to make it a wee bit more height-wise of more than 10 cubits. But roughly it would be between, well, Elmite says it would be 18 feet high, going by an 18-inch cubit. This here, 10 cubits would be 15 feet, which is being very, it's still quite a distance. You know, it is going to be more than 15 feet with all the coverings and so forth. But there's still even room enough that if you wanted a 21-inch cubit, you know, a 21-inch cubit would come make these here boards would be 17.5 feet. Then you would have the coverings as well. So you've maybe like a 6 inches to spare with the coverings. You could even have a 21-inch cubit in the measurements of the tabernacle. I don't know if there's any potential, any reason for us we can maybe use the 21-inch cubit and measure in the tabernacle. I don't know if that's a validation for it. But we'll move on to the next temple, and we'll go to Solomon's temple. And we find that in 1 Kings chapter 6. We'll just look at the most holy place. So 1 Kings chapter 6, verse 20. Someone want to read that for me, please?
And the oracle in the forepart was 20 cubits in length and 20 cubits in breadth and 20 cubits in height thereof. And he overlaid it with pure gold and so covered the altar, which was of cedar.
Thank you, Sarah. So, This is the most holy place of Solomon's temple. It was 20 by 20 by 20. And basically double the size of what the ark of the wilderness, the tabernacle. And circumference again. So this is equates to 360 inches. So you're going to have a circumference of each side of the four sides is going to be 4 times 360, which is 1,440 inches. If you're going to convert that to feet, you're going to convert that to feet. It's going to be using an 18-inch cubit, 30 feet by 30 feet by 30 feet. And that's give you 5,400 square feet. Again, we have this here number 54. And the surface area, I think this is in inches, is quite an interesting number. 700, so sorry. Um, 777,600 inches. We can have, if you can drop these here zeros, this here number here, 7776, quite interesting. Basically, we get this here number if you multiply 54 by 144. Played around with it a wee bit. Consider that 377s could be represented by 21. So we have 21/6, which is 6 times 6 times 6. And this was the date when we consider that the advertisement that caused the storm earlier on this last year, 21st of June. And if we actually reverse this here number, 6667, and we do the same thing, have this 18, 6 times 6 times 6 is 18. And 187, which can represent the 18th of July, which is what the advertisement was pointing to last year. And if we take these two numbers, 776, 7776 and 6667, and the difference between them is 1109, which points to November the 9th, which connected us to 252 days and to July 18. You also find that there's someone in the Bible called Adonikim. The number 666 is mentioned 3 times in the Bible. We find that in Revelation 13. And then the weight of gold. and that was given to Solomon's temple in 1 year. And then this year, man had 666 sons connected with him, obviously being his family. It talks about this in Ezra, Ezra 2:13. But he's also mentioned in Nehemiah 7:18. And here it's 666. And here it's 667. So you do find sort of you maybe can merge them two numbers together. It's maybe a bit of a stretch, but I just thought I'd mention that. But we also had Samuel Smoke's letters, and we've seen that there's from the 16th of February to the 18th of July, 153 days. The middle date was the 2nd of May, and this was like the center of a chiasm. This was 77 days here and 77 days there. And of course, that doesn't add up to 153. You'd have to sort of take this year, 2nd of May dates counted twice. But you could maybe have like take out the 7 there, and you have 7776 connected with that there 153. Then this is a period 153. It connects is 21st. It's 21 weeks and 6 days. So that there is like we expand that out again to being 703 sevens, and then the 6. So just sort of pairing numbers maybe. It's just some observations. Then it was really essence to have it 700. To have 177 days and 77 days is 22 times 7. And the 27, combine them, the number 227 is the 227th day of the year, is the 15th of August, which connects with the midnight cry. So you can then go to Ezekiel and start measuring Ezekiel's temple if you haven't had enough. So this is all just to get the Ezekiel's temple. Verse 40. Again, there we've seen. And we'll look at the, you've seen that our reed equates to 126 inches.
What,
And
I'll say what book and chapter is that again?
go to Ezekiel chapter 40, Jeff.
Okay, I got you.
And Jeff, you can read verse 11 for us, please.
Okay. Give me a second here. Okay, 40 verse 7, you said, okay.
Verse 11.
11, okay. Okay, verse 11 says, he measured the breadth of the entry of the gate 10 cubits, and the length of the gate 13 cubits.
Okay, so we have 10 cubits, 13 cubits. This is our 21-inch cubit. So that's 210 inches. More about this year, 10 and 13.
I have I have a question. How do we know it's a royal cubit as opposed to a standard cubit?
Verse 5 tells you it's a cubit and a handbreadth.
Okay,
So the cubit is, if you take a 18-inch cubit, and a handbreadth is normally about 3 inches. So you add that to it as well. That will give you a 21-inch cubit.
I got you. Okay.
Okay. I take this here gate as being like a certain, as it has an area to it. 10 cubits by 13. So that would be all the way around 13. 10 cubits wide, and then it's 13 in length. And if you calculate the whole amount in cubits, the circumference, so it'll be 13 times 2 and 10 times 2, give you 46 cubits circumference total all around. So we've already identified that the number 46 is can be associated with a temple. So we can see the number 46 there in the measurement of Ezekiel's temple, and that was connected with 46 years in the time of the Millerites. We'll go to, I'll just touch on some of the things. And verse 14 talks about the posts being 60 cubits. 60 cubits equates to 1260 inches. Somebody want to read verse, well actually 1260 inches also is equates to 105 feet. So we're familiar with this 1260. But this 10th day, this year 105 can connect to the 10th day, the 5th month, which was the destruction of the temple. The temple in 70 AD and 586 BC. Verse 21. Someone want to read verse 21?
And the roll chambers thereof were 3 on this side and 3 on that side. And the posts thereof and the arches thereof were after the measure of the first gate. The length thereof was 50 cubits, and the breadth 25 cubits.
Perfect light. So we have here the measurements of 50 cubits, 25 cubits. This inches. We have this here, so the 10th day, the 5th month symbol. It's 1050 inches, and 25 cubits equates to half that, so it's 525 inches. We've seen that this year connects with the 525 days from July 18 to December 25th. Familiar with that, their number, nor history, experience. And someone want to read verse 41 of chapter 40? So we're just going through some of the measurements and looking to see if we can find things that we're familiar with.
Well, I have a question for you, Stephen.
Go ahead.
Based on Ezekiel 40, verse 5, was this
Yes.
measurement ever found in any other place in the scripture? Is this a measurement that the children of Israel would have been familiar with?
unless they understood the, well, certainly Daniel 5:25. You have many tackle you forcing,
Well,
which,
I guess I'm going a bit earlier, because when we looked at this, the height of this wall in verse 5 was 1 reed, which we just established as being 6 cubits in a span, right?
yes,
And so we just addressed that as being 126 inches, correct?
well, it's actually, it just says it's 6 cubits, but it's based on the cubit and the span, but yes, go ahead, yes, 126 inches.
Okay. So I ran across something, and this goes back several months ago, but it made this an interesting comparison. I'm going to read 1 Samuel 17:4.
Goliath.
And there went out a champion out of the camp of the Philistines, named Goliath of Gath, whose height was 6 cubits and a span. So the height of this wall would have been the same height as Goliath.
Well, if you take a cubit there with Goliath, 6 cubits would be 6 times 18. So that would be 108 inches. And then a span's normally 9 inches. So so his height would then be 117 inches.
Okay, but I'm going to have to disagree with you, brother, because Mrs. White, I believe it's Signs of the Times, August 10th of 1888, identified Goliath at 6 cubits and a span as being 10 foot 6 inches tall.
All right, okay, yeah, I think that's kind of familiar, kind of.
So the point, I think, from that would be that Mrs. White is identifying, as far as Goliath was concerned, that the royal cubit was in use in his measurement.
Signs of the Times, August 10th, 1888.
88. That's paragraph 1.
Okay, I'll check that out. Okay, thanks for that input. I think I heard that before, it's kind of familiar. Well, last time I want to read verse 41. I think, yeah. Of chapter 40, verse 41. Okay, well, I'll read it. It says there's, go ahead.
Okay, 40 verse 41.
Yeah, go to 41 and 42.
Okay, 4 tables were on this side and 4 tables on that side. By the side of the gate, 8 tables, whereupon they slew their sacrifices. Verse 42, and the 4 tables were of hewn stone for the burnt offering, of a cubit and a half long, and a cubit and a half broad, and 1 cubit high. Whereupon also they laid the instruments wherewith they slew the burnt offering and the sacrifice.
Thank you. This here, 1.5 cubits was, this would be the area, 1.5 by 1.5, and works out to be 31.5 inches. So, this would be so the circumference would be the circumference all around would be 126 inches, and then there's 8 of these. The dimensions 4 on one side, 4 on the other. So that there, 126 times 8, 2520. So just another measurement we're familiar with. And then in chapter 41, verse 2, talks about Jesus' dimensions. I'll just read it. And the breadth of the door, oh, sorry, this is sorry. Maybe someone just read that for me, please.
Which verse was that? Sorry.
Chapter 41, verse 2.
And the breadth of the door was 10 cubits, and the sides of the door were 5 cubits on the one side and 5 cubits on the other side. And he measured the length thereof 40 cubits, and the breadth 20 cubits.
So we have 40 and we have 20. And this equates to 70 feet by 35 feet. And to find out the area, just multiply 70 by 35. It's 2540 feet, square feet. So this is a number we've understood connected with the Great Jubilee. 50 times 49. A number that William Miller was familiar with, and he connected it from 607 BC, from when Daniel was taken captive, until 1844. So, and then verse 4, someone write, would you like to read verse 4 as well, Dean?
Sure. So he measured the length thereof 20 cubits, and the breadth 20 cubits, before the temple, and he said unto me, This is the most holy place.
Okay, so this is the most holy place of Ezekiel's temple. And it's, again, similar dimensions to Solomon's temple, except we're using now a 21-inch cubit rather than 18. So the dimensions are 420 inches for each side. And this squared equates to 1,764. 176,400. And if you take away the zeros, we've connected this from 8034 to 1798. It's been 1,764 years. You have 2 times 252 from 8034 to 538. Pagan trampling down of God's people. And then you have 5 times 252. Excuse me. Which relates to the people trampling down of God's people. Without their number 1764. And then if you go the same way, 1,764 years the other way, that takes you to the death of Jacob in 1731 BC. So just another number we're familiar with. Verse 15. I'm not going into details, but talks about side chambers. There's 30 side chambers. I thought it was verse 15. No, not. Oh yes, verse 5. Sorry. Verse 5 and 6, it talks about these here side chambers, and there's 4 cubits each. And then it talks about there's 3 in verse 6. The side chambers were 3, one over another, and 30 in order. And they entered the wall which was of the house for the side chambers round about, that they might have hold, and they had not hold in the wall of the house. So, picking up there, we have 30 chambers, and they're 4 cubits each. These here chambers. So 4 cubits is 4 times 21 is 84. 30 times 84 is 2520. Again, see in that number. So I think we're coming to an end here. We're coming near the end, and we're just going to go to the altar. We find that in chapter 43. Okay, so it's going to be beginning in verse 15, or verse 13 actually is the beginning. So would someone like to read from verse 13 to verse 16 for me, please? No volunteers?
What book are we reading from? Sorry.
Ezekiel chapter 43,
Oh.
verses 13 to 16.
Well, if no one will volunteer, I will read.
Yeah, go ahead.
43, 13 to 16.
Mm-hmm.
And these are the measures of the altar after the cubits. The cubit is a cubit and a handbreadth. Even the bottom shall be a cubit, and the breadth of a cubit. And the border thereof by the edge thereof round about shall be a span, and this shall be the higher place of the altar. And from the bottom upon the ground, even to the lower settle shall be 2 cubits, and the breadth 1 cubit. And from the lower settle even to the greater settle shall be 4 cubits, and the breadth 1 cubit. So the altar shall be 4 cubits, and from the altar and upward shall be 4 horns. And the altar shall be 12 cubits long, 12 broad, square in the 4 squares thereof.
Okay, thank you, Dean. So we have a cubit here being 4 cubits for this here altar, being in height. It's 12 cubits by 12 cubits. Straight away, this is going to be 144 cubits square. And then I'll not go into the details of it, but I'll just draw it out. It talks about a cubit then being in length here. Then you have another 4 cubits. So the breadth of this here area would be 14 by 14, because you got a cubit here, a cubit on the other side as well. Add it to it, and then you have another 1 cubit area around this as well. This is going to be 2 cubits high. And this would be, this here, that's that length there. So this here length is going to be 16 cubits. And then you have like a, I think this is some drawings have it above the ground, but the way this is talking about it's going like a cubit underneath. So this here, so it's like this bit's actually underneath the ground, so this would be ground level here. And then you have like a cubit going underneath. You can pick this here up when you're reading about it. One of the verses. And this would be 1 cubit deep. So that would make this here 18 inches. Sorry, 18 cubits broad and length as well, square, 18 cubits square.
Right.
So we've seen that a cubit here there's actually something I forgot to mention, but back to I'm going to bring it up again. I forgot to mention this about the most holy place, what we read about. So actually, I'll just step out of it, just to put it in here. We talked about the 20 cubits by 20 cubits, and we related this to be relating to the 1,764 years, because you can convert that by 20 by 20 by 21. I think it's yeah. So this would be each would be 420 inches. It gets you to this here number here. But if we're going to convert it to feet, it would be 35 feet by 35 feet. This gives you the number 1225. And to me, this here connects with December 25th as well. And just as a symbol. So that's connected with the holy place, connecting it with the 12th of December, or sorry, 25th of December of the date. So follow that out then, and we'll come back to this. So this here, 12 by 12, we've seen that this here can equate to 144 square feet. Sorry, square cubits. But to have that as square feet, it adds would be 21 rather than 12. 12 cubits would equate to 21 feet by 21, and that equates to 241 square feet. So it's like a mirror. So we have here 12. I'll get back to this here. I'll just finish off this. I want to just discuss this here. There's some moving back again. I'll go back to that in a minute. It is sort of connected. But we're going to convert this here to feet. It's 4 cubits, and then 2 cubits high, which 4 cubits is 7 feet, and 7 feet, and then 2 cubits is 3.5 feet, and that adds to 17.5 feet high, is this here other, and then below the ground you have 1 cubit, which equates to 1.75 feet. So it's like a tenth underneath the ground, and then you got 17.5 feet above the ground. And the only place in the Bible that you have this here number 175 is connected with Abraham and the age that he died. You find that in Genesis 25, verse 7. Now this here, 18 cubits, we can equate that to 31.5 feet. And we know that Abraham was connected. The only story we have of Abraham connected with the altar is when he went to sacrifice Isaac. Isaac lived until he was 180 years old. Abraham 175 and Isaac was 180 when he died. Now this doesn't relate to the time when they actually performed this here, typifying the cross. You know, when Abraham was taking Isaac to the altar. But if we multiply these here together, we have this here number 13500. Connects with the 31.5 feet of this here altar, and we can even think about Genesis chapter 3 verse 15. We can even tie that in, because that we know that Genesis 3:15 was pointing to the cross of Christ as well. As Abraham's offering of Isaac. So just some thoughts there. Just finishing off now. So we have this here altar, the top part being 12 by 12. And this equates to, this is cubits. It equates to 21 by 21 cubits. Sorry, feet. And this is 144, and this is 441. And also equates to 252 inches. But this here number, we talked about this year being the 12th of December, sorry, the 25th of December. So if you go like, you've seen in our history, we had 252 connected with the 525 to give us 777. If you're going to get them down to the lowest fraction, it would be 12 over 25. So like a symbol of the 25th of December. And then these here numbers here, 12 and 21. If you connect these to the prime numbers, the 12th prime number is 37, and the 21st prime number is 73. Again, it's kind of these are kind of mirrored together, with 3773. As you could do that with 144 and 441, and then 12 and then 21. And if you multiply these here by the 21-inch cubit, sorry, 21, yeah, by 21 inches, I'll give you 777. And if you multiply this by 21, it gives you 1533. So we're familiar with this here. This is from the August 11th, 1840 to 22nd of October, 1844. It was 1,533 days. This was from the 9th of November 2019 to the 25th of December 2021. We had recognized over 777 days, which was based upon the time period 30 years previously, from the fall of the Berlin Wall to the fall of the Soviet Union. And these here numbers, 37 times 73. If someone has a website that deals with Genesis chapter 1 verse 1, and he talks about the gematria of Genesis chapter 1 verse 1, and that adds up to the numbers. In the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. The gematria for that there is 2701, and it is, so that equates to 73 times 73, sorry, 37 times 73. It's the only numbers which bring us to this here number, except for that number itself times 1. And if you add these here two numbers together, 777 and 1533, it's 2310. We had noticed that it's 231 days from November 9th to the 27th of June. So that sort of began like a 3-week time period then to the 18th of July. I think Daniel van der Horst had done some studies connected with the number 2310. But if we take away 2310 from this here number 2701, it gives us the number 391, which we connected with the length of the reigns of the kings of Judah and the prophecy of Revelation, chapter 9, verse 15. I'm not, I probably could go on, but I'll maybe end it there. Yeah, so there's lots of 105s, 10th days, 5th months, 1260s, 315s. You recognize there was 315 days. Well, from September 9th, or yeah, September 9th, 2019, when Jeff stood up and against Perminder, Omega, until July 18, 2020. Well, so that's our connection, and that was what we got from the altar of in Ezekiel here. So that's me finished. Any questions?
September the 7th instead of September 9th?
Oh, sorry, yes, correct, yeah. Thank you. Yeah, you're right, thank you. Yeah, because we connected with the number 97.
Hey, Stephen, can you
Yes.
possibly put this, do you have this all in a document or?
I'm sort of working on it.
Oh, okay, but you will have it in a document.
I can do that, yes.
Okay.
Is there any other points or? I can, yeah, I suppose when I give you the document, then you maybe be able to get a better idea of what I've been studying.
Yeah, you know, and so the thing about it obviously is it's a lot of information, as you know, and you took a lot of time to figure these things out, and you present them in a short period of time. But
I was just trying this morning.
oh yeah, well, yeah, we always keep finding all these things, and you know, and I always think, well, at some point we would stop. But the purposes of these is, first off, it obviously confirms our message, but it also tells us there's something more to find, right? So God is giving us this to confirm what has already happened, but also to give us information and confidence about what is going to happen. So it is important, but it is a lot, you know, in a study. It's a lot of information. There's no way that I could keep track of everything and remember everything you said, right? So if I can't do it, I know I kind of feel sorry for everyone else, but we should be able at least to follow enough to see that this isn't something that's just manipulating numbers. This is actually understand, and some of these things, if you're not mathematical, it's hard to appreciate. For instance, when you deal with those prime numbers, right? And you get like the 37th prime number and the 73rd prime number, and then you multiply it by 21 and you get these other numbers. These are very profound things because it shows that God has designed the math behind it. And so Satan really couldn't do these things. A lot of people say that this is from Satan, but it couldn't be possible because Satan would have to be the one who created the universe in order for him to control these types of things. So this shows that it's God's hand. It's Palmoni, the wonderful number. And physicists say that the entire universe is actually mathematical. So this is, and the sanctuary is in a sense a symbol of the universe. It's a symbol of how God has worked for man in salvation. So all these things are connected. So we should expect to find that these things exist, but that they exist with symbols that we didn't create these symbols like 777 or 1533 by doing math, you know, like complex like this. What we did is we just counted chronology. We just counted from August 11th, 1840 to October 22nd, 1844. Now, I also ask you because, you know, somebody asked me to put all these symbols that I had into a document, which I'm going to try doing. But, you know, if we continued writing documents, we would find that you could never finish a document because as you study and write it out, you keep finding more things. So, you know, obviously a document would just be a starting point for individual people, but we do need to, we maybe can't do all the math, but we should be able at least to understand the importance of the symbols being used.
Yeah, I made a mistake. I think I said 126 times 8 is 2520. And it's actually a 1008, which equates to 252 times 8. Sorry, 252 times 4, which connects them to the Leviticus 26. In a way, you know, the 7 times there, the 4 7 times. Just making a correction there. Okay, so we'll just close with prayer.
All right.
Dear Heavenly Father, we thanks for your love for us, and we ask that you continue to watch over us and protect us and give us light concerning your will for our lives at the end of the world. Help us to be seeking you ever more every day, to be more like you in character, and to understand the path that you have set out for us, the work you've created us for in this here world. And may we live to your glory. Forgive us for all our disobedience, for where we've not sought you, made unwise decisions that has set the work back that you plan to accomplish. Lord, forgive us and renew us. And the years that the locusts have eaten. We ask that you restore them to us, and that we may know what the life that you had planned for our lives to have, that we can begin to experience that in a more full way in this short time that this year life, that this year world has left. And we ask these things to your glory. Amen.
Amen. Well, thank you.